nervous, on the surface I look fine. My brain feels heavy, my traumatized mind. And I'm so tired, I can't feel my eyes. Whoa, whoa. I'm petty, but I know how to lie. I feel feelings that I can't describe. I'm not breathing, but I'm still alive. Whoa, whoa.
Shout out to Neoliberal Tears for this.
Shout out to Twitter/X user Neoliberal Tears for resurfacing this clip.
Neoliberal Tears commented at the top of the show, what happened to my music? One of my favorite commenters.
Yeah, big
Somebody
fan.
has so much affection for me.
He's a bit of bias. Prepare for a holiday season of Neoliberal Tears.
Hello, and welcome to Nightcap with Neoliberal Tears, where here I am, Neoliberal Tears, about to torture myself, listening to this, to Emma Vigeland, friend of the show, interviewing AOC, another friend of the show. Why am I doing this? Why? Is the world not suffering enough? Have I not suffered enough? You know, I think there's a larger debate that's happening, a back and forth, if you will, about whether the Democratic Party can be taken over and rehabilitated or reimagined or reshuffled or rebranded. And of course, Emma Vigeland falls on the side of people who believe genuinely that the Democratic Party is just an empty, silly little vehicle that can be reformed with the right people, the right players being plugged into power. So AOC has taken a break from doing no independent media interviews and joined Emma for this interview. I have not listened to this. I am torturing myself live with you, hopefully watching this with me. So let's take a listen and let's assess. Is there hope? Is there a future for the Democratic Party with AOC at the helm? Do we even want that kind of future? Personally, no. No, thank you. No, thank you. Although I did look up to see, I had a friend on Twitter sort of saying that, this might be AOC's way of testing the waters before running for higher office. I do believe that's the case, but I did look this up just to give you some info, some context, some historical background. And apparently, a sitting House member hasn't won a presidential race since the 1800s. Like, it's been that long. And we know AOC is anything but principled or a risk taker. So my guess, allegedly, is that she's running for Senate. Chuck Schumer is up for re-election in 2028. I think she's going to jump on that, potentially. We'll see. Look at me trying to stall for time so I don't have to listen to this. Oh my God, no, I'm going to do it. I'm gonna do it. Ryan, you're excited to be here, right? I'm gonna add my sidekick, Ryan. Ryan, are you excited to listen to this? I think you are.
It's just false.
No, it's not false.
He's not excited. Maybe he will be. Maybe we'll check back in with Ryan. We'll check back in, Ryan. Don't worry. Thank you for being here, Ryan. Appreciate you. All right, let's do this. So I put it at 1.5 speeds because I want it to be over as soon as possible. And we'll have some more clips to play. So fret not. Let's go.
We are back, and I am so happy to be joined now by Representative.
She called her president. This is so gross. This is not journalism. This is why AOC is going on the Majority Report. Because she knows Emma is just is gonna give her an even like more embarrassing interview than anything Ryan Grimm would give. Right, Ryan?
It's just false,
But
false,
no,
false,
it's not false.
It's not false. President. So embarrassing. This is so embarrassing, Emma. You're debasing yourself. And look at AOC. She knows AOC is just loving it. AOC is like so like desperate for positive attention all the time from the peanut gallery, the liberal peanut gallery.
Had to do that.
Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. I mean, honestly, I kind of was 50-50 on it. I just went with it. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well. It's great to see you. And I know you're
I'm good. How are you?
obviously not going to be talking about your ambitions for higher office. So I'm making a little bit of a joke, but have you been surprised to see, how excited people are when there's these polling numbers showing this buzz?
How excited people? Who except Emma Vigeland and Ryan Grimm and the whitest, palest people that DSA could ever find in the world, apparently. Nobody else is excited. Emma is quoting one poll where I'm pretty sure Pete Buttigieg is polling higher than AOC. Pete Buttigieg, who nobody likes. My God, these people will lie to themselves until the end of time. They really do live in their own little bubble where people are excited about AOC for president. Hilarious. Go with it. I actually, I'm so toxic that I actually want AOC to run for president in 2028 because I want to see that crash and burn. I want to look at that car accident driving headfirst into the wall. I really want to see that. I want to see AOC try to sell herself to the pro-Palestine community. I would love to see it. I need to see it. I want to see it. You want to see it too, right, Ryan?
It's just false,
But
false,
no,
false,
it's not false.
Okay. I really enjoy having Ryan as a sidekick. I don't know if you can tell. It's uplifting my mood.
As they say about you and your candidacy?
Yeah, I do. I am surprised by it. I think sometimes people would talk about it, and I was always candidly like, yeah, okay.
Yeah, whatever.
But then some of these polls came out, and I'm like, what is happening? I was in Memphis, and Justin Pearson, we were campaigning for him, and there were some folks actually that had driven out from Arkansas, and they were talking about the straw polls out there. And I'm like, I don't, but I think people are pissed off.
Yeah, right. People are pissed off. And I want to talk about what
people are pissed off at AOC backing Genocide Joe. Not even when everybody in the world wanted him gone. Literally everybody. AOC was telling every media outlet, no, we have to stick with Genocide Joe. He's the best hope we have to retake the presidency. She has the worst political instincts I think I've ever seen from anybody. And these two women, these two besties of the show, are really living in their fake alternate reality where the left is excited about AOC. I've never seen the left less excited. Truly. You can tell these kinds of things. Like when Bernie was running in 2016 and even in 2020, you could sense the excitement. It was tangible. You could feel it. That people were invested, that people were interested. With AOC, it's the exact opposite. It's only like 3 white people in the independent media space that want to see this. And me, because I love being a messy bitch. That's why I want to see it. Sandy, please run for president. Please, and make it this year. Sorry, not this year. Next year. Please. Please do it. I'm desperate for entertainment. TV sucks now. So, you're my only hope.
People are pissed about as well, specifically the data centers. I mean, you mentioned Memphis and your trip down to the South. You went to Georgia as well. I was kind of going back and looking at.
And of course, South Carolina has been decided to be the first state that the DNC would kick off election season in 2028. I think AOC's probably, from her calculated and politically idiotic mind, she's probably thinking, okay, I need to work on my numbers. She doesn't want to end up like Pete Buttigieg, polling at 0% with African-American voters, Democratic Party-based voters. That's why she's going to all of these southern states, Tennessee, South Carolina. I'm sure she's going to plan a trip down there. Because without the support of the African-American Democratic Party base, she's dead in the water. That's also why I think she hates Brianna Joy Gray, because maybe I shouldn't go into that, but I really think she really doesn't like the optics of being criticized by Black leftists, in my opinion. Because that's her weak spot, right? White leftists are falling all over themselves trying to push AOC for president. It's not them that she needs to work on. Ryan Grimm has that campaign in the bag, running cover for her. She's trying to build her numbers up with people of color because she is an elite, repulsive, disgusting liberal. And most people of color, hate exactly everything that she represents. She also has a habit of never being able to get to the point, no matter how many words she spews out, which also people in general don't like. So anyway, I think that's why she's working on the South. But again, I don't think she's running for president. If you disagree with me, let me know. I love that. I love disagreement.
Stuff from 2018, 8 years ago, when you just won your primary. And one of the through lines in your career has been environmental policy, because there's this trajectory from the Green New Deal that you supported early on to now your bill that is a bicameral bill with Senator Sanders about this data center moratorium.
8 years and AOC has achieved nothing. Fucking nothing. Not for the environment. Not for anybody. Embarrassing to pretend like her legacy is going to be climate. This is pathetic. When Democrats had the majorities, they wrought a once-in-a-lifetime environmental destruction campaign on Gaza that they all deserve to go to hell for. I quoted a study here from the American Journal of Public Health that showed that it's going to take Gaza at least 15 years because of the bombs Biden dropped when Democrats had majorities and AOC was in Congress pushing Genocide Joe to the very end to run for re-election. That's her legacy. Pathetic. Emma is really trying to pretend like what is it that the Democrats passed? Tax credits for Teslas? That's an environmental legacy? The most out-of-touch white people I've ever seen. I'm talking about Emma. To think that climate is AOC's big legislative achievement truly warms her brains.
How do you envision the future of climate policy? And over the past 8 years, has anything changed in what you've seen that has altered your perspective at all?
Yeah, I think about that time too. And a lot of our environmental work, I think, has also been reflective of the broader populist work that we've been doing. There are different ways that people enter a climate and environmental fight. Some of it is from a more scientific perspective. They're seeing the numbers and the data on climate change and trying to keep below, 8 years ago, trying to keep below 1.5 degrees Celsius. Now we're in a much more grave condition than that. And so there are people
I think her talking points are outdated. Uh-oh. Someone's getting fired.
People that are brought to it from a global climate change, carbon-based perspective. And really what made a Green New Deal bill was three things. One, an aggressive decarbonization target, ideally within 10 years. Two, an economically populist platform that meant that any Green New Deal style bill had to create thousands or millions of union track jobs. And the third was an environmental justice and racial and economic component, which is acknowledgement that the communities that are going to be hardest hit are sacrifice zones. And so we need to approach legislation that prioritizes the protection of the communities that are going to be hardest hit by the climate crisis.
Yeah. And do you think that when it's been hitting people's pocketbooks and their electricity bills in the way that it has, that it's changed the conversation? Now people understand that climate policy is very much economic policy as well?
I think so. As we started that effort, because I represent the Bronx, I represent a district that the year I got elected before redistricting, the majority of my district was in Queens and the minority was in the Bronx. I'm from the Bronx. Now the majority of my district's in the Bronx and the minority of it is in Queens. And one of the things that
she grew up in Westchester. Gotta be said.
I did early on is that in the Bronx, it's a less ideological place in terms of our electorate. It's obviously very deep blue,
right,
but it is very working class and also racially diverse and like all of these things stacked on one another. And so one of the things that we had to do was really deep canvas the community to talk about climate issues in a way that actually show up in our life. So I think to answer your question, it's less about connecting climate to these issues and it's more.
It's about messaging. It's about framing the issues to these dumb, idiotic, working class people who just don't know what a climate change is, apparently. They don't know how it's impacting them. You have to explain it to them slowly. Also, I got to show this, because AOC was she liked to pretend like Genocide Joe was great on climate, revolutionary. And I wanted people to remember that the bill that Biden passed that was sold as great for the environment, so good for the environment, the Inflation Reduction Act. This is from The Guardian. It was actually a bill that gave subsidies, billions of dollars in subsidies, to companies like ExxonMobil to drill more oil, not less oil, more oil. This is what the ExxonMobil CEO said. At an oil summit in Houston earlier this year, Exxon's CEO, ExxonMobil, Darren Wood, said, "I am very supportive of the IRA and acknowledged the legislation especially benefited the company." His company, ExxonMobil, is set to receive billions in public subsidies because of the legislation. This was not a climate bill. This was a bill written by and for corporations like ExxonMobil. And they stuck a sticky face with like tax credits for Teslas and pretended like it was helping the environment. That's how AOC used her time in office, to sell that giant piece of shit bill, giving oil companies more drilling permits, not less. That's her legacy. Repulsive. And repulsive. Emma is really fucking pathetic here. It's really pathetic. We deserve better than this. I know Emma is smarter than me. Like, there's no question in my mind. She's lying on purpose. Or maybe it's one of those things where, like, people who lie to themselves to the point where they actually believe their bullshit might be one of those cases too. I mean, you really, people in the West, I think, really get to create their own reality, because you're so sort of like in a bubble, shielded from any kind of having to think about things or be have your reality be confronted with facts. That's how members of Congress are they live in their own little world. where the only thing that matters is what Politico says about you, or The Guardian, or any of the media papers, not papers, I guess. They're, what should we call it? Blogs? That's funny. Bringing that back. They only care what people say about them in the media space. That's their reputation, that's their image, that's their brand. They don't actually care about the reality. The reality is that the Democratic Party has been shit on the environment. Couldn't be shittier.
More about talking about the specific ways that this is an environmental issue in a way that's not tree hugging and academic and out of touch. So 8 years ago, it was me doing teach-ins in public housing saying the lead in our water, the sky high asthma rates that we deal with, that is environmental. And this is directly contributed to with the gas infrastructure that we have in our public housing that is leaching into our air and all of the other environmental issues that are going on. And so with the data center fight, I think that this is it's a similar analog. People are seeing how all of this is wrecking their health, wrecking their communities, and it makes environmental issues not academic, but very real in people's everyday lives.
Yeah, there was a poll from Data for Progress that showed that 63% of voters support pausing construction of AI data centers. So your bill is very much a popularist bill, if you will. But I mean, what's also, I think you can connect it to is the Iran war and how gas prices have been impacted by that too. So there's a way to, I think, as we've talked about, framing Gaza around, as Abdullah Sayed has done very well, and you just recently endorsed him, framing Gaza, like, we shouldn't be spending this amount of money, we should be investing it in our...
So I didn't know this, so I'm just throwing that out there for anyone who might have also not been aware. But the largest oil reserves in the world, the top three countries that have the largest oil reserves in the world, number one is Saudi Arabia. Aramco is the largest oil company in the world. It's based in Saudi Arabia, owned by Saudi Arabia. Number two is Venezuela, second largest oil reserves in the world. Number three, can you guess what it is? Is anyone here? Is anyone in the chat? Where are my besties? I'm gonna try to manifest them. Ryan, you love being my bestie, right?
It's just false,
But
false,
no,
false,
it's not false.
I had to. Okay, so the number three is Iran, of course. You could have guessed it. You probably did guess it if you're watching this later. So I think when we look at it that way, you know, because the United States and Saudi Arabia have had for decades a very strong alliance. So that's controlled. Venezuela, Iran, starting to make more sense now, right? There's a coherent strategy here. And of course, we talked about how the United States is now actually selling Venezuelan oil. Yeah.
Communities. That's also how you can connect that foreign policy issue to environmental racism and environmental investment in this country.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, it's about talking about these issues in many different ways that are majoritarian. And there are ways that we can frame these debates that talk about why we come to these conclusions from a moral perspective. I think we always have to be making three arguments at the same time for any issue: a moral argument, an economic argument, and also a political argument. And when we're able to argue for something in a chorus of all of those three, then we're able to build a majoritarian coalition to actually win on them.
Building a majoritarian coalition is important. And I know that you, I'm sure, share some of my frustration with efforts that felt like they were narrowing the Democratic coalition, the focus on affluent suburbanites over a more working class coalition. But something that I don't think gets talked enough about is where Democrats lost credibility was on the issue of democracy. And when you say majoritarian bills and things like that, that's a way to demonstrate some sort of democratic responsiveness. But on the genocide in Gaza, many Democrats still aren't listening to their voters, although it's a lot of progress in the House with the 103 Democrats dollar shipment. But Gaza, Biden running again when a lot of people wanted a more open primary process. Like, these are choices by the Democrats that box out the voters and make them feel unheard. And so when Kamala Harris was going around and talking about democracy with a banner behind her, they didn't have the credibility that they needed to fight this fascist threat. And I'm curious what you think about that and how the party can be more responsive and demonstrate through action democracy.
Yeah, I mean, I think about all, you brought up a lot of different points. One,
Just to stick, I mean, we're going to get to the bullshit about democracy and all that stuff. I want to share, because I think memory is so important. Memory is resistance. And this isn't even ancient history. This is like 2 years ago, right? After AOC said Biden was committing genocide, which was a big thing, she let the Biden administration know in advance that she was going to call it a genocide. It was about 2 to 3 weeks later, on April 22nd, 2024, that AOC actually praised Genocide Joe. After she said he was committing genocide, she praised them for, quote, the single biggest federal investment in tackling the climate crisis in our nation's history. She praised the person who's committing genocide for federal investment in solar panels. Let's play this.
Accident that this president is overseeing this is no accident that this president is overseeing the single biggest federal investment in tackling the climate crisis in our nation's history.
All of these oil companies getting all of these subsidies, all that money, record-breaking money, being paid to the same pieces of shit that are polluting the environment and destroying it. She's calling it a great investment. This is also from the same day that she did a photo op with Genocide Joe, wearing sunglasses, holding hands. It's the same day. You see, so AOC was able to blame Genocide Joe for genocide 2 weeks earlier, and then congratulating him for solar panels. That's how consistent she is. That's how principled she is.
Over just the past few months, President Biden has paused new natural gas exports, vastly expanded the conservation of our public lands in Alaska, and he has overseen tens of billions of dollars in climate investments across the United States. Today also serves as a reminder of the power of organizing, of what we can accomplish when young people, climate advocates, labor organizers, and working people of all backgrounds come together to demand the future we all deserve.
Disgusting. Disgusting. Yuck.
one is, on this Biden issue, it was interesting watching it happen in real time. What I find very interesting about that moment and the people who talk about that time is that I think that some, not all, but some of the Democrats that are most aggressive about getting their narrative out about how they wanted to push Biden out were also the same Democrats that were most aggressive about closing the wagons on a primary process when we had a chance to have that in a presidential election.
Right.
And so I feel like a lot of them are compensating.
Hello, bestie. Seeking truth in canines. Good to see you. It's just me and you. And friends of the show. Besties of the show. Emma Vigeland, repulsive access journalist who really wanted to see herself as part of history. When AOC becomes president and she can say, I was there, drooling all over myself. I really want people to remember how gung-ho AOC was about Genocide Joe. She would not let him drop out. She just wouldn't. This is from, I want to make sure I have the date right, July 19th, 2024. July 19th. I think he dropped 2 days later. I could be wrong on that. Someone correct me in the chat. July 19th, 2024. AOC rallies to Biden's side as progressives split over backing his 2024 campaign. The New York progressive has emerged as an unexpected voice speaking out against the Democratic, quote, donors and elites she says are trying to push the president out. You see how disgusting she is? She framed it as like, look, all of these billionaire donors are trying to push out this amazing populist president, Genocide Joe. If you hate billionaires and donors, you should support Genocide Joe staying in the race, even though he was literally on his deathbed, barely awake. She's like, no. You see, this is what's called, and I hear this being talked about more and more: negative polarization. Politicians love to fucking do this, to negatively polarize you. Like when they try to manipulate you, like they know, okay, if I just frame this as the donors are against Biden staying in the race, and I want people to support Biden, I'm gonna blame donors. Because if you hate donors, you should support Joe Biden. It's so gross. And her best friend, person she has a tight relationship with, Ryan Grimm, loves doing this. Loves negative polarization. I'm negatively polarized. To hate this. At a moment of existential turmoil for President Joe Biden, Representative AOC has stepped up as a firm ally of the embattled incumbent, using her platform to speak out against the flurry of Democratic voices who are calling on him to withdraw from the 2024 presidential race. As former President Donald Trump was wrapping up his lengthy speech accepting the GOP presidential nomination, AOC, as she's widely known, took to Instagram Live to speak directly to thousands of followers to make the case against Biden dropping out. Worst political instincts literally in history. Isn't that right, Ryan?
False.
It's not false.
It's not false. It's not false. So now Emma is asking her about the Democrats not having a primary process. She's literally asking the one person who would have stood by Genocide Joe, even if he died during the campaign. I can't believe the revisionism. Where are the journalists? Where are they? To ask AOC a real question about why she supported Genocide Joe for that fucking long. She hates taking risks so much. It's really pathetic. The way I would never vote for her. I even said to myself, like, there isn't a gun in exist or a weapon that exists that Ryan Grimm could hold to my head and force me to vote for this lying piece of shit. Never, under any circumstance. I'm telling you, it doesn't matter who she's running against. I don't care. Don't care. You're not gonna negatively polarize me to vote for that idiot. No way. From Seeking Truth in K9, Emma is the hip version of Mr. False, False, False. Oh, I wish I had a clip of Emma having a Ryan Grimm moment. Friend of the show. Friend of the show. Oh, Seeking Truth in Canines. Have you seen this already? What did you think? What do you think? Do you think AOC is running for a higher office? Is this why she's going to her favorite softball haven of Majority Report doing an interview. Or is she just fundraising for the midterms? That could also be a possibility. The DNC number, the DNC fundraising is down. That's usually when we see politicians go to the media, push themselves, push the party. I don't think she's running for president. You know why? Because because a sitting House member hasn't been elected since the 1800s. And we know she's not a risk taker. She stayed with Genocide Joe even when he was 1% alive. She wouldn't quit. No, too big of a risk. Too big of a risk to leave Genocide Joe, who's barely alive, running for president. Also, she hasn't written a book. And that's what people always do before they run for president. They have to write a book, hire a ghostwriter to write a book. She hasn't done that. The safest career advancement move for her is to run for Senate against Chuck Schumer. It's safer because she can, negatively polarize against him. She can present him. She can say, okay, okay, you dirtbag leftists. Maybe you don't like me that much or at all. But to run for Senate, all I really need is to convince a constituency of New Yorkers that I'm better than Chuck Schumer. That's a much easier hill to climb than to run for president, which, again, a sitting House member has not won since the 1800s. For my bestie, Seeking Truth in Canines, I just started watching it. Not sure of running for POTUS, but she was excited in a Kamala way with the giggles when she was told about the poll. Yeah. She, we'll see. I do hope she runs for president. I do hope. And next year. Don't wait, Sandy. Do it. Go for it. The sky's the limit. You would be breaking the glass ceiling.
Because, and you hear sometimes there's these like consultant class and like some of these folks that want, who backed Biden when it was time to step down as like some sort of litmus test.
Gotcha. Okay.
But those folks were part of the establishment that were closing the ranks around Biden before a primary process would have even started.
So you're saying these people just wanted to be the decider, to use a Bushism?
Well, I think it's not just to be a decider, but they saw at the end how unpopular their actions, the conclusion that their actions had led to and how unpopular it was. So then it became a race to distance themselves from it.
Gotcha.
So if you run the tape back, right, like there was a moment when the press was asking, do you think Biden should have a primary challenger? And there were some Democrats, many, if not most at the time, that were saying, no, I support him, etc. And there were some that were open. Like I will never poop because of the way I got here. I can't.
Defeated an incumbent.
Yeah, I defeated an incumbent. So I just feel.
This is insane amount of lying. I just looked this up. Biden dropped out on July 21st, 2024. The article I showed you about AOC refusing to support Biden dropping out, telling everybody that it's just a big scheme by the donor class to push Biden out. That was 2 days earlier, July 19th. She's such a fucking liar. She was all Biden 2024 all the way to the fucking last minute. She's a terrible liar. Unbelievable.
On principle, I'm never going to say we shouldn't have a primary. But a lot of the Democrats who said, no, we're sticking with him at that time were the same that I think oftentimes are very loud about that litmus test after the fact. So, but I do agree with you. I think that voters and the electorate, I think there's this tension, especially at that time, between what the establishment thought could defeat Donald Trump and the mood that the electorate was actually in. Mm-hmm. And I think when we fast forward to today.
Seeking Truth in Canines, what is this word salads? I mean, we've talked about the culinary school of bullshit that A.O. Flippity Flop and Ryan Grimm have gone to. What is this? What is this? It's almost like getting a lobotomy, listening to AOC try to not explain anything. You leave more confused than you walked into the interview because you have no idea. Is she having a stroke? Does she even know what she's saying? Is she taking the answer somewhere? I don't know because I have no idea what she's saying. I couldn't care less. That's my bias. But I think the facts speak for themselves. She stayed with Genocide Joe until the very fucking end. Because she wanted all of the establishment people. If you're an elected Democrat, you're the establishment, quote unquote. Establishment is just branding. But she knew that all of the power players were on Biden's side. She committed herself to being a media spokesperson for the Biden 2024 campaign. She doesn't want to risk that or anger Biden or anger his underlings, the people who have worked for the Democratic Party for years, all of the donors that supported Biden. She doesn't want to go against them, even when the entire world is begging for somebody else to run. AOC would not fucking quit that train. Unbelievable. And now she's trying to rewrite history in some way that I am not entirely clear about because I have no idea what she's saying. I have no idea. It's kind of like when, oh my God, that one answer that she gave when it was like, I think they asked her about Palestine. Ironic, like her kryptonite, right? The one issue she can't talk about without shooting herself in the stomach. And it was like, well, you have to think about the how, but also the why. And the way we talk about the how and the why is also important for the how and the why. It was like, she really did coin the term word salad in some way. I mean, she should be proud. She should trademark it. Word salads. Word salad 2028. Because before then, I think AOC really is the first time. Politicians have always lied, right? We've always, like, that's like, of course, that's always been the case. But I really think word salad did not become a thing in the lexicon until AOC appeared and was so she struggled so hard to make a point, and it was so evident in every interview she gives that we just collectively decided, we collectively adopted this. Like, I really think I really think she's the OG word salader. I do believe that. And hey, that's an accomplishment. That's something. From Seeking Truth in Canines, it's beyond being more confused. Imagine for people really, really hurting to listen to her word salads. She's causing pain. She's inflicting pain on all of us. I agree. Maybe it's a psychological warfare tactic on her, like, she's trying to exhaust us. She can turn people who come to the left with genuine interest and support go reactionary. Yeah, I think any non-voter listening to that bullshit answer just now, they're not voting Democrat. I mean, I think Emma thinks it's going really well. That's what's making me laugh. Like, she thinks this is great. This is a historical conversation. Wow. And I've heard Crystal actually make this point. I remember when AOC had like this, conference in Europe, the Munich Security Conference, whatever the fuck. And AOC and her team really pushed beforehand. They really told all of the media outlets out there, like, oh, it's going to be a big moment. It's her moment to show that she's knowledgeable on foreign policy. It's a big moment, such a big moment for her. And and even people like Crystal were like, wow, that was a real mess. That was a real fucking mess. word salads really, like, they've maybe there was a time before the internet when interviews would, like, when it was easier to share clips and moments of politicians talking off the cuff, shall we say. And I think we've grown beyond word salads. Like, now it's kind of unforgivable if you don't, like, work on your talking points ahead of time, if you don't rehearse, if you don't actually know what you're saying. And you're just trying to, like, speak stream of consciousness and land a point somewhere at some point. Doesn't work. Nobody likes that. You're actually pushing people to the right, I think, or to stay home. Allegedly.
The reckoning that we're seeing in some of these primaries, is that what is different between Trump 1 and Trump.
Sorry, Betsy, to pause you there. Did you know that AOC, not only did we all know that she did not support a primary challenge to Hakeem Jeffries, the largest recipient of corporate money, AIPAC money in the House. She also hasn't expressed support for even people like Cori Bush, who's running for re-election. I have issues with Cori Bush. I don't talk about it because it's not my whatever. Why is AOC not supporting Cori Bush? Cori Bush, who was in a Netflix documentary with her, with AOC. And AOC is like, yeah, it's such a reckoning in the Democratic Party. Why aren't you supporting primary challenges? For those people trying to progressively take over the Democratic Party. She wants to present herself as a player in the game, as someone who supports primary challenges. She doesn't support primary challenges because she doesn't want to go against her colleagues. And Emma is sitting there, not challenging her on it. Emma's in the from my bestie, Seeking Truths and Canines. Emma's in the business of gaining viewership, not for revolutionary change. It's funny because I also saw that the interview doesn't even have a lot of views. I think the AOC brand has taken a dip. Maybe this is why she's going on shows again. Although there was that one poll. I really hope that poll convinces her to run for president instead of Senate. I want to see that. I want to see that car accident. I deserve to after bearing through this.
Two is that I think your median Democratic voter desperately wants to do everything to get Trump out of power and get Republicans out of power. And in Trump 1, they trusted the establishment to do that.
Yeah.
And in Trump 2, they do not. And we are seeing how that is playing out in real time.
Mm-hmm. I mean, Bernie endorsements, he's batting, what, over 50% at this point?
Mm-hmm.
And he doesn't seem to give a crap what anyone has to say about it. He's lost patience with some of that. But yeah, I mean, I think then putting aside Biden for a second, just something like the data center moratorium is, as you say, a majoritarian bill. It's responsive to the mood. And I wonder on the inside if you can shed light on why so many of your colleagues are resistant to that. There's almost like a kind of distaste for the messiness of populism that should be anathema to the Democratic Party right now, in my view, because we're fighting a real threat, this fascist in office.
I mean, the answer is obvious. It's money.
Yes. Yeah. I was lobbing that up for you.
Yeah. In the past couple cycles, when you just, I mean, rightfully, there's a ton of concentration on AIPAC spending. And also, if you look at the top 3 spenders, it's AIPAC, AI, crypto.
Right.
AI being the largest singular source of campaign financing, not just to people like Donald Trump in many cases, but oftentimes in many House and Senate political campaigns. These folks know, and we look, you go back to 2012, you go back to any other kind of cycle. Like when we throw back to the Great Recession, and during that time, it was Wall Street, it was financial firms. Now it's AI that are kind of the top contributors to our political system. And they know that the game is that you need to bankroll both political parties in order to get your agenda passed. And so the good news is that in the moratorium, the people, I do think that the revolt that is happening in these communities.
Just gotta say, if AOC had a real sincere commitment to fight against the AI data center takeover that we're seeing nationwide, in which, to be clear, people are revolting against, who wouldn't be, right? Why would you, AOC, endorse Hakeem Jeffries for Speaker of the House when Hakeem Jeffries not only takes AI money, crypto money, Hakeem Jeffries would be deciding which bills, including that messaging bill that you have with Bernie for a data center moratorium. Do you think Hakeem Jeffries gets to decide if that gets a floor vote or not? Do you think Hakeem Jeffries is going to press for a floor vote on data center moratorium? You know, the governor of Virginia is a Democrat, Abigail Spanberger. They asked her if she would support a data center moratorium, and she said, no, we don't want to. I think she said something like, we don't want to be left behind the curve. So let's not pretend like the Democratic Party is the anti-AI, anti-data center moratorium party. AOC supports Democrats who love taking AI money. She supports them for being Speaker of the House. So people are tired of bullshit and fake, commitments or co-sponsoring a bill when you're not actually fighting to put it on the floor and voting for it, or fighting for colleagues who would support that kind of bill. You're lying. It's window dressing.
Is very palpable and powerful, and it is working because the folks that are signing on to the AI moratorium are not just your expected lefty members of Congress. We are seeing Democrats that are more moderate sign on to the moratorium because the outrage among the electorate is also cutting across ideological lines as well. And so I think that despite the fact that there's a lot of resistance and people not signing on to it, there is also...
I have to always point this out. The Medicare for All bill has 116 co-sponsors. That's a lot of people. It's a lot of Democrats. And somehow, some way, it never gets a floor vote. But the people who co-sponsored it get to run every 2 years and say, I support Medicare for All. I support it. You should vote for me. Every 2 years, you should vote for me. You should keep me in the House forever because I support Medicare for All. It just never gets a floor vote somehow, but it's not my fault. It's not my fault. And sure, I vote for Nancy Pelosi for Speaker of the House or Hakeem Jeffries, who don't support the Medicare for All bill, and they get to decide which bill gets a floor vote and which bill doesn't. But that's not my fault. That's their fault. And sure, yeah, I support them for Speaker of the House, but don't blame me. They love throwing the hot potato around and blame everybody under the sun. Because I really hate this kind of deception where lawmakers get to co-sponsor a bill or support a bill, make themselves look progressive, get through primary season every 2 years, but not actually fight for that bill to pass. The only bills we see passing are COBRA subsidies and subsidies for companies like ExxonMobil to drill more oil. From Seeking Truth and Canines, Virginia has the largest amount of data centers. Oh my God. And even more than Texas. Plus, Spanberger is former CIA, friends of the show. Friends of the show.
So increasingly across ideological support for it too.
Ryan, I'm sorry to pause you guys. Ryan, I think it's been reported that AOC is also maybe a CIA asset. Isn't that right?
It's just false,
But
false, false.
it's not false.
Oh, are you sure? Did I just see this? Is that fake news, Ryan? Okay, sorry. Sorry for putting that out there. Oh my God.
I wanted to ask you a little bit about your strategy and how that's evolved, because it's safe to say you've become a bit of a fundraising juggernaut, and that gives you this war chest that can help vulnerable Democrats when they need it, and that's valuable for you when you need to ingratiate yourself to members, because you've spoken about how you were treated when you got into Congress in 2018. A lot has changed since then, and on our show, we've talked a lot about the importance of building an inside game to pair with
Mhm.
outside pressure campaigns. It feels like you've been very conscious in trying to do that. How conscious has that strategy been for you, building power internally?
I think it's very conscious. My motivation is winning.
Same. I love to win.
I'm pretty, forthright about that. And I think
Winning for herself, not winning in terms of legislation that impacts working people, that actually passes, because she hasn't won anything for people. Not a single bill in 8 years. Winning. At least this might be the first time we've ever heard her be honest. Let's take that in. She's not talking about winning a public option or a $15 minimum wage. None of those things she fought for when Democrats still had the leverage, the majorities in the House and the Senate and the presidency that she could have fought for. She's talking about winning for herself. Career advancement, winning over donors like Reid Hoffman. Repulsive demon.
I think that you need a lot of different players on the field, right? When I first got there, you also work with the tools that you have. So when I first got there, I had support from my district. I had the ability to set narrative and be able to communicate. We were building kind of digital tools in a time when
I think it's such a joke that I don't even think anyone pretends this anymore. But like in the beginning, people were like, oh, AOC is such a good communicator. She tweets, blah, blah, blah. I think it's pretty clear right now that AOC is one of the worst communicators. I think it's pretty established now. No one actually talks about AOC in those terms anymore. Not even Ryan Grimm. No one pretends she's a good communicator. She's a terrible communicator. One of the worst. I actually think Elizabeth Warren, who's also a terrible communicator, is not as bad as AOC. Like, AOC just leaves you confused every time she opens her mouth, or angry, one of the two. Terrible communication skills, terrible, which is ironic. I don't know, Ryan, do you agree?
Oh,
It's just false,
but
false,
no,
false,
it's not false.
I don't think it's false.
that was not common in the Democratic Party, but also didn't have much else. I didn't have
Right.
internal support.
That's putting it mildly.
Yeah.
It was like you were treated with hostility.
Yeah, open hostility. And that hostility shows up in ways that you're not even aware of when you get there. There's open hostility, and then there's also secret hostility.
Subterfuge.
Yes. And also, we did not have the fundraising ability at the same. I mean, it was robust, but it wasn't the same as it is now. And we were able to do really powerful things and really punch above our weight with what we had. And we were able to then take that and build on that. And in New York, part of my immediate focus was not just national, but local. We had to change the city's politics because one thing that I don't like to be is alone.
Right.
And I was very aware that I was surrounded by people who wanted to politically kill me. Andrew Cuomo was governor, a term in. Eric Adams was, elected mayor.
Mhm.
And so our immediate focus too was also how do we support down ballot candidates and cultivate the next generation of people that were going to help govern this country.
So here, if I'm reading this correctly, she's trying to take credit for Zoran Mamdani and DSA electeds winning in New York their races, like Daria Lisa Villa Chevalier, like Claire Valdez, like who's the other one? I don't want to include Brad Lander, but because he's a Zionist, and that's anathema to me. But I think she's trying to take credit for their victories in some way. When the hilarious thing with Zoran Mamdani, she wouldn't endorse him against Andrew Cuomo, even when he was leading in the polls against Andrew Cuomo. She waited until after the debate because she's not a risk taker, never has been, never will be. And she didn't endorse any of the DSA electeds like Daria Lisa Villa Chevalier. She was running against Adriano Espilat, who was the chair of the Hispanic caucus, I believe. She didn't endorse her. She didn't endorse Claire Valdez, and that was an open seat. But now she's pretending like she was really, working behind the scenes to really help these races. Taking credit for them. Unbelievable. Truly shameless. Because, there is now this media cycle about how DSA made all of these gains and all of these wins. Trust me, it was without her help. And honestly, they probably wouldn't have benefited much from her help or endorsement, to be clear.
Over the next 10, 15 years. And so that's when we start getting, that year Julia Salazar got elected in 2018 after my election, because at that time the primaries were separated.
Yep. That was Cynthia Nixon's year too.
Cynthia Nixon's year. You get Jabari Brisport, you get, and then we start putting these pieces on the board. A term later, Zohran Mamdani, assemblyman from Astoria. We've got, so on and so forth. We built the DS.
I knew she was trying to take credit for Zohran. She waited. This can't be said enough. I mean, people who were watching that primary remember. She had to be pushed to endorse Zohran Mamdani. People were like, fuck. Are you literally going to let Andrew Cuomo win? And of course, from AOC's mind, it's like, fuck, I don't want to, if I endorse against Andrew Cuomo and Andrew Cuomo wins, then he'll put a target on my back. I don't want to anger a Cuomo. And look at her now pretending like she was calculating Zohran Mamdani's rise. Oh, what a liar. What a liar. People had to beg her to endorse Zohran Mamdani and Bernie Sanders. Let's not just give AOC a rough time.
SIO program on the Assembly and Senate level. You have it on the City Council level. And that has also that then creates the political foundation and strength. So you're not just one person totally surrounded, but you take that and you invest it in a political coalition that can help each other.
Yes.
And that's not just local, but it's national as well. And you start to learn how to do that. And then you also make a case as to why this is not just good for your worldview.
So why not endorse Cori Bush this year, AOC, if you don't want to be alone? Because you're such a good person who helps progressives. Why not endorse any of the DSA people who won in New York? Like Claire Valdez and Daria Lisa. Why not endorse them? Oh, that's right, because you don't give a shit. You waited until they won and then you took credit, just like the Amazon labor union. When they asked you to join them in a rally before the vote happened on whether they would unionize or not, you pretended you had a conflict, you couldn't make it. Then they won their election and look who sweeps right in to try to claim credit. That's her pattern. So disgusting. Whatever higher position she's gonna shoot for, like the Senate, let's say she gets elected to the Senate, she would be a terrible senator. Truly terrible. Because she has no initiative. No philosophy, nothing behind the eyes, just complete empty obsession with winning personal gains for herself. And what's good for her advancement. And if that means not endorsing any House members from DSA who are running for election, even if they'll make you less alone, then so be it.
But also why this is good for the party. And that I would try to make that argument and it would fall on deaf ears. Yeah. But you don't have to just rely on whether people listen to you or not. You just do it.
Well, and you also you have money, right? Like, yeah. I mean, that talks, and that is, it's like it's a way to combat the deluge of corporate money by having a carrot And then, I mean, that I would imagine has made your work life a little bit easier. Has it made it easier for you to get certain agenda items through? I mean, yeah.
Absolutely. Well, one of the things that I think we really encountered when I first got there was that it still exists, but there was a really concrete conception in the party that only one kind of candidate can win a swing seat.
Right.
And it was very conservative, and it was very cookie cutter, and it didn't matter if your swing seat was in Ohio or Nebraska or Pennsylvania. You had to take certain positions. You had to be a certain kind of candidate in order to be considered viable. And so the kind of crumb that I started with was, because at that time we had the largest class since Watergate. So I started to look at all of our frontline candidates, and I say, you know, are there any here that kind of break the mold in any way? And at that time we had 1, 2, or 3 that were, you know, fit whatever mold was fit, but you'd have one that was on Medicare for All.
Right.
Or you'd have one that was willing to sign on to the Green New Deal resolution. And so what I started to do was max out to those frontliners that were willing in one way or another to take a risk and buck convention. It wasn't just 1 or 2 of those things, but just in general as issues came up. Because I think the thing that's most important for us as a left movement to show is, you know, there's a lot of sticks,
Yeah.
but we need to have really big carrots and say, if you do this and if you take this leap, we will come through for you.
If you take a risk, I'm going to support you, and even if there's some spending against you for this, you'll be able to tap into that as a resource. Like, I mean, these are things that people don't see on the outside that I think are. I'm a political nerd. I love this kind of stuff, but it's important, and it's part of why you're in the position you are now. And it's also been really it's been reported that you and Mayor Mamdani have worked quite closely together, and that was really clear in the New York endorsements because the mayor endorsed 3 House candidates, 2 of whom successfully toppled incumbents, 2 of whom were DSA. You did not. But what doesn't get talked about is that it also worked the other way with assembly challengers. So you endorsed 3 assembly challengers against incumbents. All of them won. And it's the same situation for Mamdani and for you. You have to work with members of the House. Mamdani has to work with members of the Assembly to get his agenda across. And
so now Emma is making up excuses for AOC for saying, oh, the reason why you didn't endorse DSA members running in the House against corporate Democrats is because, you just didn't want to get your hands dirty, so Zoran did it on your behalf, and then you endorsed assembly members. You're such a brilliant leader. These people, especially Daria Lisa, she was really facing an uphill battle running against Adriano Espilat. They could have really used AOC's endorsement, I guess. I'm saying I guess because I would not want that endorsement. I mean, you know, it's really sad, honestly, seeing Emma in this pathetic fan mode, making up excuses for AOC as she goes along. What's AOC's excuse for not endorsing Cori Bush running against Wesley Bell? What's that excuse? Claire Valdez was running in an open seat. She wasn't even running against any sitting House member, Emma. Do you think AOC still had a secret excuse for not endorsing? It's really pathetic. I don't know who I feel more sad for, Emma or AOC. It's to be determined.
Politics is dirty. And so there's a great chance that you're going to be retaliated against, either you or Mamdani, if you miss and the incumbent makes it, right? Like that is, I would imagine, a part of the strategy and how you guys have been coordinating.
Yeah, I also think there's a larger conversation about the natural limitations that come with any one elected position.
Right.
And it is really hard to put 100% of every expectation in every situation on one person. And especially when that person is trying to execute on an agenda within the functions of their role. And so sometimes this coordination, it's not just explicit, it's also us functioning within the roles. And if anything, it also demonstrates the advantage of us organizing to support people at multiple levels of governance. Those pressures exist on him as a mayor because he has.
If you're able to gather what the fuck she's saying right now, let me know. Because Emma was giving her a leg up, trying to give her an excuse to say, oh, the reason you didn't endorse DSA endorsed primary challenges to House members is because you didn't want to be retaliated against by Adriano Espaillat. If, let's say, she endorsed against him and he won anyway, Emma Vigeland is saying that's why you didn't endorse Daria Lisa or Brad Lander, who I guess, so Dan Goldman couldn't retaliate against you. And AOC is giving up some bullshit about the limitations of one person and not to put all of it on one person. I don't even think Emma knows what the fuck she's talking about. Maybe she's trying to write down like what she's hoping AOC is saying, what she should be saying.
He has to coordinate his own budget for the city. The money for the city comes from the state, and his number one focus is being as effective as possible as mayor of New York City. And the same applies to me as a member of the House. And so some of this is also about demonstrating the advantages of what a growing coalition looks like at multiple levels of governance. There are those natural limitations. And also they create natural complementary strategies and positions.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess I'll turn back to the House here because I'm curious about if Democrats take back the House, what is your sense of what the most fertile ground is going to be for, oversight of the Trump administration on committees? Because there's just so much to grab at here in terms of corruption and illegality. But I'm curious if you think in terms of like the House business, where people think the Trump administration has its most vulnerabilities in terms of oversight.
It's a little hard because their law breaking is so prolific. Yeah. So where my instinct says to go is two things: their source of money and their source of political power. So if I were just to go just off the top of my head, in terms of political power, you want to go after Epstein.
Yeah.
You want to go after not just corruption generally, but corruption in the ways that undermine their base. I think that after the general election, there was so much, especially in the Democratic establishment, so much hay made about like bro podcasts, and that's where they ran up the numbers.
Yeah.
And I think that the media has just as much of a misogynistic blind spot as anywhere else. I mean, they are the misogynistic blind spot in many ways.
You've never experienced that.
And so, but the cost of that is that I actually think a lot of it was Maha. I think that there was very little political analysis done on how they really focused on women, on moms, on radicalizing and doing a lot of persuasion in an electorate that was much more swingy than to be frank, white male voters. Those have generally broken more strongly towards Republicans, but they really focused a lot on women, and they have had probably the biggest betrayals with the glyphosate rulings, with their complete throwing in with Big Ag and Monsanto and Bayer, including coordinating with the Supreme Court and all of that. And so I think their political vulnerabilities are we want to focus on corruption in the ways that undermine their promises. And we want to go after investigations that cut off the supply of their illicit money flows. So
what do you make of the Maha movement then? Because our hypothesis, or at least mine, has been on the show that these charlatans are able to fill a vacuum because there's so much anxiety that people have with the healthcare system.
I agree completely.
Yeah, if you want to expand on that, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I actually meet with Maha activists. I work with Maha advocates because a lot of them really don't believe that their fight is partisan, and it's not in many ways. We do have extraordinary corruption in our agricultural system, in our big corporate system as well. And this is an area where both parties in our entire political system has been compromised. Like one of the first things I did was be part, when I first got to the House, was be part of these congressional investigations on PFAS dumping.
Right.
What do I want to say here? When I think of Maha, I think she's referencing Make America Healthy Again, whatever, the RFK Jr. bullshit, fake, quote unquote, movement that some idiots have fallen prey to. Anti-vax mommies, all that stuff. I don't think, I'd love for there to be no for there to be legislation against PFAS, like forever chemicals and all that shit. Would love nothing more. But the idea that AOC is meeting with Maha activists, and I don't think she met with any Palestinian activists. Could be wrong. But the priorities here are kind of... So her analysis is that Trump won the election because the Maha, quote-unquote, movement was able to radicalize mommies who were against vaccines. She thought that was the swing. That was the coalition that she needs to win over, to flip Republicans to Democrat, from Republican control to Democrat control. Oh my God. Oh my God. I haven't heard anybody talk about Maha in like literally 2 years. So I don't know what the fuck she's talking about. I don't think I'm going to post this stream if you happen to be here, because this is just a waste of my time, a waste of everybody's time. So sorry, guys, I'm going to let you go. Anyway, if you've been here by chance and you caught this live, you're welcome. I'll see you tomorrow. Free Palestine. From the river to the sea.